The amber star that the Neridians called home had nurtured their civilization for 10,000 years. Their elegant spiral cities dotted the surfaces of 7 planets, while orbital habitats formed glittering rings around their worlds. The Neridians had mastered interplanetary travel centuries ago, spreading through their system with careful planning and respect for the natural balance. Their tall, slender forms and iridescent skin had evolved under the gentle radiation of their sun, which they called Luma. Chief astronomer Yunji first noticed the anomaly during a routine stellar observation. The readings made no sense. She recalibrated her instruments and tried again. The results were the same. With growing dread, she expanded the analysis parameters and ran a complete diagnostic. By morning, she knew something terrible was happening. Yunji's hands trembled as she prepared her report for the High Council. The data was clear, but the implications seemed impossible. Luma's core processes had suddenly accelerated. Their sun, expected to remain stable for billions more years, was rapidly approaching collapse. The readings are verified, she told her assistant Minho as they hurried through the gleaming halls of the Science Academy. We need to inform the Council immediately. The High Council chamber was a vast dome built of crystalline material that changed color with the emotional tenor of discussions. Today it pulsed with calm blue light as 12 council members discussed trade negotiations with a neighboring system. High Elder Taeho noticed Yunji's entrance first. The Elder's normally composed features registered surprise at the interruption. Chief Astronomer, this is unexpected. Forgive me, Elders, Yunji said, her voice stronger than she felt. I bring urgent news. She forwarded her findings to the Council's data screens. The chamber's blue light flickered to yellow as the Council members reviewed her data. These readings suggest stellar collapse, said Council Member Ju-1, the oldest and most experienced scientist among them. But this is impossible. Stars don't simply accelerate their life cycles. The evidence is before you, Yunji replied. I verified it through multiple methods. Luma is dying. The chamber light shifted to angry red. How long do we have? Asked Taeho quietly. Weeks, Yunji said. Not centuries or even years as stellar physics would predict. Something is wrong with Luma at a fundamental level. The evacuation order went out within hours. The Neridians had colonized their entire system, but had never felt the need to expand beyond it. They had faster-than-light capability for scientific missions and trade, but now they would need every ship for evacuation. The first ships departed from the outermost colonies, loaded with families and cultural treasures. The plan was to seek refuge with their trading partners in nearby systems, while the bulk of the population followed behind. Captain Suk-jin piloted the lead evacuation ship, the Dawn Seeker. His vessel carried over 2,000 Neridians from the Ice Moon colonies. Approaching system boundary, he announced to his passengers. Preparing FTL jump. The Dawn Seeker's engines hummed as they built toward the critical threshold needed for faster-than-light travel. Seok-jin activated the drive. Nothing happened. He tried again, checking the systems. Everything showed normal function, but the ship remained firmly in normal space. Engineering report, he called. Captain, drive systems are functioning perfectly, his chief engineer responded. But something outside the ship is preventing the spatial fold from forming. Similar reports came in from the other evacuation ships. None could break free of the system. Some unknown force field or gravitational anomaly surrounded their entire star system, trapping them inside. They were still trying to understand the phenomenon when the first major solar flare erupted from Luma. Unlike normal stellar flares that their planetary shields could handle, this one was massive beyond all historical record. The radiation waves swept through the outer system, overwhelming shields and safety systems. The Dawn Seeker survived, but many ships did not. The colony on the outermost moon was completely destroyed. In a single day, over 2 million Neridians perished. We need help, Taeho told the Emergency Council session. We must contact the Galactic Council. The Galactic Council had formed centuries ago when the first warp-capable species met each other among the stars. Now 12 major civilizations participated, sharing knowledge and resolving conflicts. The Neridians had been members for over 3,000 years. Ambassador Yoon, he represented the Neridians on the council. When she received the desperate messages from home, she immediately called for an emergency session. The council met in their great chamber on a neutral world. Representatives from all 12 civilizations gathered, some physically present, others attending as holograms. Distinguished representatives, Yoon-hee began, her voice steady despite her fear. My homeworld faces extinction. Our star is rapidly approaching collapse through some unknown process. Worse, an unexplained anomaly prevents our ships from leaving the system. Millions have already died. Without immediate assistance, the Neridian civilization will be erased from the galaxy. Councillor Dajung of the Vexari, a species known for their scientific achievements, spoke first. We have reviewed your data, Ambassador. The phenomenon affecting your star is unprecedented. The gravitational anomaly appears to interact specifically with the tachyon fields generated by standard FTL drives. Then send ships with alternative drive systems, Yoon-hee pleaded. We would if we could, said the representative from the Kalthi Dominion. But all council races use variations of the same FTL principle. Any rescue ships we send would be trapped alongside your people. The debate continued for hours. Various proposals were suggested and rejected. Send automated ships. Too few to make a difference. Attempt to stabilize the star with gravitational technology. Impossible given the accelerated collapse timeline. We put this to vote, said the council chairperson eventually. The motion is to commit resources to a Neridian rescue mission, despite the high risk of failure and potential loss of rescue personnel. The vote was 9 against, 3 for. Insufficient support. I am sorry, Ambassador, the chairperson said. The risk is deemed too great. Yoon-hee stood alone in the center of the chamber, her iridescent skin dulled with grief. You condemn my entire species to death. Back in the Neridian system, the situation deteriorated rapidly. Luma's instability increased daily. More flares swept through the system. The inner planets became uninhabitable as radiation levels rose. The population consolidated on the outer worlds and in space habitats, but supplies were limited. In a final council meeting held aboard the largest habitat, Elder Taeho addressed the remaining leadership. We have one option left, he said. An ancient network of signal relays exists throughout this sector of the galaxy, placed by those who came before any of our civilizations. If we boost our distress call through these relays, it might reach beyond Galactic Council space. To what end? Asked Ju-won bitterly. If our allies won't help us, why would strangers? Because sometimes strangers see with fresher eyes, replied Taeho. We have nothing left to lose. The signal went out, carried by ancient technology barely understood, broadcast on frequencies rarely used in modern communications. It contained everything: their situation, their location, visual records of their dying worlds, and a simple plea for help. It traveled for days through the darkness between stars before reaching a small blue-green planet whose inhabitants had only recently begun exploring beyond their own system. Retrieve survey vessel Horizon drifted silently through the starlit void, its sleek hull reflecting the distant glow of unfamiliar constellations. This unremarkable star system had been charted for basic exploration, just another data point in humanity's methodical expansion into the galaxy. Commander Ji-woo stood on the observation deck, studying the holographic star chart hovering before her. 73% of survey complete, announced the ship's computer. No anomalies detected. Ji-woo nodded absently, tucking a loose strand of dark hair behind her ear. After 3 months in deep space, these routine missions blended together. She was about to return to her quarters when Communications Officer Yuna's voice came over the intercom. Commander, I'm picking up something strange on long-range sensors. Ji-woo changed course, heading for the bridge instead. When she arrived, Yuna was hunched over her console, adjusting settings with practiced precision. "What have you found?" Jiwoo asked, leaning over Yuna's shoulder. "A signal, very faint but definitely artificial." Yuna's fingers danced across the controls. "It's coming through on frequencies we rarely monitor. I almost missed it." The communications officer tapped a command, and a sound filled the bridge, a rhythmic pattern of pulses and tones that clearly wasn't random noise. Science officer Hyun-soo joined them, his expression thoughtful. "That's not automated," he said after listening for several moments. "There's variation in the pattern that suggests intelligence." Jiwoo felt a chill run down her spine. In the 15 years since humans had ventured beyond their solar system, they had found evidence of ancient civilizations, but never encountered a living alien species. "Can we translate it?" she asked. "Working on it," Yuna replied. "The structure suggests a mathematical foundation similar to our own communication protocols. I'm feeding it through the linguistics matrix now." Hours passed as the ship's computers analyzed the mysterious signal. Finally, fragmented images and text began appearing on the main screen. Scenes of beautiful spiral cities, elegant beings with iridescent skin, and then destruction, fire, masses of people fleeing. "It's a distress call," Hyun-soo whispered. The final image stabilized. A star system with 7 planets, one star showing alarming instability and coordinates. Jiwoo didn't hesitate. "Plot a course to these coordinates, maximum speed." Navigation Officer Min-jun turned in his chair. "Commander, protocol requires us to report first contact to Earth Command before engagement." "We will report," Jiwoo said firmly. "But this is clearly an emergency. By the time we receive instructions from Earth, it might be too late." Min-jun nodded and turned back to his console. "Course plotted. 3 days at maximum speed." "Proceed," Jiwoo ordered. She returned to her quarters and recorded a detailed message for Earth Command explaining her decision, knowing it would take weeks for their response to reach her. Some rules were worth breaking. 3 days later, the horizon dropped out of FTL near the coordinates from the distress signal. What they found left the crew speechless. A bloated, angry star dominated the view screen, its surface roiling with massive flares. Around it orbited 7 planets, their once beautiful surfaces now scared by radiation storms. Scattered throughout the system were thousands of ships and habitats, a civilization in the process of collapse. "Life signs?" Jiwoo asked. "Millions," Hyun-soo confirmed. "Concentrated on the outer planets and in space habitats. But the radiation levels are rising everywhere." A new solar flare erupted as they watched, racing outward from the unstable star. It struck a small moon, and before their horrified eyes, the settlement on its surface began to collapse. "There are people down there," Medical Officer Soo-jin said, her voice tight with distress. Jiwoo made another decision that broke protocol. "Prepare the landing shuttle. Medical team and security only." Within minutes, the shuttle was racing toward the collapsing settlement. As they entered the moon's thin atmosphere, they could see buildings crumbling under increasing gravitational stress caused by the star's instability. The shuttle landed in what appeared to be a central plaza. Through the viewport, they saw dozens of tall, slender beings with iridescent skin running in panic as structures fell around them. Jiwoo was the first out of the shuttle, wearing a standard environmental suit. She stood before the aliens, the first human to make direct contact with an intelligent extraterrestrial species. One of the beings approached cautiously. It was taller than Jiwoo by at least a head, with 4-fingered hands and large, expressive eyes that showed clear intelligence and fear. Jiwoo raised her empty hands in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. She spoke, knowing her words couldn't be understood, but hoping her tone would convey her intent. "We received your distress call. We're here to help." The alien seemed to understand her purpose, if not her words. It gestured to the others, and soon a group of survivors was heading toward the shuttle. "We can fit 20, maybe 25 if they're smaller than us." Soo-jin calculated, already triaging the injured aliens. Focus on the children and injured, Ji Woo ordered. We'll make multiple trips if we have to. The evacuation was chaotic but efficient. The aliens, whom they would later learn called themselves Neridians, seemed to grasp the urgency and helped organize their own people. When the shuttle was full, primarily with injured Neridians and their children, Ji Woo ordered the first group back to the horizon, while she remained with Security Officer Ta Min to help with the remaining survivors. The ground shook violently beneath them. Ta Min's scanner beeped urgently. Commander, gravitational forces are increasing exponentially. This entire moon is breaking apart. Ji Woo looked up to see the shuttle safely away, then turned to the remaining Neridians. Through gestures, she conveyed that they needed to find shelter until the shuttle returned. A tall Neridian who seemed to hold some authority led them to an underground bunker. Inside, dozens more survivors huddled in fear. The Neridian leader approached Ji Woo and placed a small device in her hand. When activated, it projected images that told a story: the sudden crisis with their star, their attempts to evacuate, the mysterious barrier that prevented their ships from leaving the system, and the Galactic Council's refusal to help. Galactic Council, Ji Woo whispered. Humanity had no idea other civilizations had formed a government among the stars. The shuttle returned 30 minutes later, but by then, the situation had deteriorated further. The moon's crust was fracturing. They loaded as many survivors as possible and took off just as massive fissures opened beneath them. From orbit, they watched in horror as the moon broke apart completely, fragments spinning away into space. Another solar flare incoming. Hyun-soo warned as they approached the horizon. Maximum speed back to the ship. Ji Woo ordered the pilot. We won't survive a direct hit. The shuttle docked with seconds to spare. The horizon's shields activated just as the radiation wave struck them. The ship shuddered under the impact. Shield capacity at 60% from a single hit, reported Engineering Officer Gunwoo. We can't take another one like that. In the medical bay, Soo-jin worked feverishly to treat the injured Neridians. Their physiology is remarkably similar to ours in some ways, she told Ji Woo. They're suffering from radiation exposure and trauma, but they're responding to basic treatments. One small Neridian child reached out and touched Ji Woo's hand with long, delicate fingers. In that moment, despite all the differences between their species, Ji Woo felt a profound connection. We need to save them, she said quietly. Not just these few, all of them. How? Hyun-soo asked. Our ship can hold maybe 100 refugees, and there are millions out there. Ji Woo straightened her uniform and headed for the bridge. We return to Earth immediately. We show them what we found and what's happening here. Earth is weeks away at our top speed, Min-jun reminded her. Then we better hurry, Ji Woo replied. Because based on what we've seen, these people don't have much time left. As the horizon prepared to depart, Ji Woo recorded a new message for Earth Command. This time, instead of a dry report, she included emotional testimony from her entire crew and footage of the dying Neridian system. She ended with a simple plea. They asked the galaxy for help, and only humanity answered. What we do next will define our species for generations to come. The horizon jumped to FTL, carrying its precious cargo of survivors and the fate of an entire civilization. Retrieve the horizon's return to Earth orbit was anything but routine. Instead of the standard docking procedure at the orbital station, they were directed to the high-security diplomatic bay where the blue-white glow of Earth shone through reinforced viewports. Commander Ji Woo stood at attention as the airlock opened, revealing not the usual customs officials, but 5 of the highest-ranking members of Earth's United Space Command. Commander Ji Woo. Admiral Kang spoke first, his weathered face revealing nothing. You've caused quite a stir. Sir, Not here. The Admiral cut her off. Your passengers are being transferred to medical facilities. Your crew will be debriefed individually. You'll come with us. Ji-woo followed the officers through the station to a conference room, where the walls displayed real-time footage of the Neridian refugees being carefully moved to the medical wing. She saw Soo-jin accompanying them, explaining treatments to puzzled Earth doctors. The door sealed behind them with a soft hiss. As dawn broke over Earth, 35 ships rose from spaceports across the planet. Operation Lifeline had begun. Humanity's first major action as a spacefaring civilization would not be conquest or colonization. It would be rescue. What no one could know was that powerful eyes were watching. The Galactic Council had placed observation satellites near Earth years ago. Now those satellites transmitted images of the human fleet departing on its mission of mercy, a mission the Council had deemed impossible and too dangerous to attempt. The impossible plan was underway. Retrieve the human fleet dropped out of FTL travel at the edge of the Neridian system, 35 ships arranged in perfect formation. On the bridge of the command vessel Mercy, Captain Du-Yun stood silent as the view screen displayed their destination. The sight was worse than the reports had prepared them for. The Neridian sun had swollen to an angry red giant, its surface churning with massive flares. Radiation storms swept through the system in waves. The inner planets were already lost, their once beautiful surfaces scorched beyond recognition. Life signs? Du-Yun asked, her voice steady despite the horrific scene before them. Concentrated on the outer planets and orbital habitats, replied Sensor Officer Jun-ho. Approximately 8 million remaining. They've consolidated as the inner system became uninhabitable. Communications Officer My-sun turned from her station. Captain, we're being hailed by what appears to be the Neridian leadership. On screen, Du-Yun ordered. The image shifted to show a tall, slender being with iridescent skin that shimmered with subtle color changes. Behind it, other Neridians worked frantically at control stations. This is Elder Taiho of the Neridian High Council, the alien said in halting but understandable human language. Your arrival is unexpected. The gravitational anomaly has trapped all ships in our system. Du-Yun stepped forward. This is Captain Du-Yun of the Earth vessel Mercy, leading Operation Lifeline. Our ships use different technology. The anomaly doesn't affect us. The Elder's skin flashed with bright colors. You came to help us. Yes, Du-Yun said simply. We're here to evacuate as many of your people as possible. We have 35 ships with capacity for approximately 500,000 individuals in emergency conditions. The Neridian leader was silent for a moment. 500,000 from 8 million, he finally said. How will you choose? It was the question the mission planners on Earth had struggled with most. Du-Yun gave the answer they had agreed upon. We can't make that choice. Your leaders know your people best. We ask only that priority be given to children and those who carry your cultural knowledge. Another solar flare erupted as they spoke, larger than any before. Alarms sounded on both ships. We have little time, Taiho said. I will transmit coordinates for the primary evacuation points. May your spirits be strong for what comes next. The screen returned to the view of the dying star. Du-Yun turned to her crew. Send the coordinates to all ships. Operation Lifeline begins now. Across the fleet, captains received their assignments and moved their ships into position. The plan called for continuous rotations, land, load refugees, return to the fleet gathering point, transfer refugees to the larger transports, then return for more. The first ships entered the atmospheres of the outer planets where most survivors had gathered. The Neridians had organized themselves well, with the young, elderly, and injured ready for immediate evacuation. On the fourth planet, Lieutenant Jae-jin piloted his shuttle through turbulent skies toward a mountain facility that served as a refugee center. The radiation levels were already dangerously high, and the planet's magnetic field was collapsing under the star's increased output. Structural integrity at 80%, warned his co-pilot. The atmospheric disturbances are getting worse. Just get us on the ground, Jae-jin replied, fighting the controls. Those people won't survive another day here. The shuttle landed hard on a makeshift landing pad. Outside, thousands of Neridians waited in ordered lines, carrying only small personal items. Their discipline was remarkable given the circumstances. As the boarding ramp lowered, a Neridian wearing what appeared to be a leadership symbol approached. "We have 3,000 here," she said in the simple human language they had quickly learned from the translation programs. "Your ship holds 400. In normal conditions, Jin confirmed. "We can take 600 in emergency transport mode." "The children first," the Neridian said, gesturing to a group of small figures huddled together. The loading proceeded efficiently, but halfway through, the ground began to shake violently. A massive crack opened across the landing pad, separating Jin from his shuttle. "The tectonic plates are shifting," his co-pilot called over the comm. "We need to leave now." Jin looked at the hundreds of Neridians still waiting to board. "Not without more people," he insisted. He organized the stranded Neridians into groups and helped them jump across the widening gap. Working tirelessly, he managed to get another 100 aboard before the co-pilot's warnings became too urgent to ignore. "Lieutenant, we have no choice," she said. "The shuttle's structural integrity is failing. If we don't leave now, no one gets out." With a heavy heart, Jin jumped the gap himself and boarded the shuttle. As they lifted off, he watched the remaining Neridians grow smaller below them, their skin colors shifting to what he now recognized as expressions of acceptance and farewell. Similar scenes played out across the system. Human crews pushed themselves and their ships to the limit, racing against time as the star's death accelerated. The Neridians, facing extinction, showed remarkable courage and often insisted that humans take others before themselves. Back on the Mercy, Captain Do Yun coordinated the massive operation. Reports flowed in continuously. Ships damaged by radiation, crew members injured during difficult extractions, and the steadily rising count of refugees saved. Ship 14 reports engine damage from solar flare exposure, my son reported. "They've evacuated 500 refugees, but can't make another run. Direct them to transfer their passengers to Transport 7, then move to the rear of the formation for repairs," Du Yun ordered without hesitation. Dr. Da Hyun, the elderly physicist who had insisted on joining the mission, worked frantically in engineering as reports came in of drive systems struggling with the intense gravitational fluctuations. "The quantum fields are holding," he told Engineering Chief Keiho, "but the gravitational waves are growing stronger. If that star collapses completely, it might form a black hole." Keiho's hands moved quickly over the drive controls. "How much time do we have?" "Hours, maybe less," Da Hyun replied. "The stellar physics is completely abnormal." Keiho made a decision. "We need to modify the fleet's drive systems to handle increased gravitational stress. I'll need to personally adjust each ship's field generators." "That would take days with normal procedures," Da Hyun objected. "Then we don't use normal procedures," Keiho said firmly. "I'll use a maintenance shuttle to move between ships. The modifications only take minutes with direct access to the core." As the evacuation continued, Keiho moved from ship to ship, making critical adjustments to their drive systems. After 18 hours without rest, he had modified 28 ships when the star began its final phase of collapse. "All ships, prepare for emergency departure," Captain Du Yun ordered. "Gravitational sensors indicate imminent stellar collapse." Keiho was on his way to the 29th ship when the warning came. He checked the fleet's status and made a chilling discovery. 7 ships still had unmodified drives. They wouldn't survive the gravitational shear of the star's death. He redirected his shuttle toward the command ship instead and opened a channel. "Captain, this is Chief Engineer Keiho. 7 ships have unmodified drives. They won't make it out when that star collapses. How long to modify them all?" Du Yun asked. "Longer than we have," Keiho replied. "But I have a solution. If I can access the Mercy's main power core, I can create a field extension that will protect the remaining ships during jump." That would require manually holding the field stable during the jump. Dr. Dahyun cut in, understanding immediately. The radiation exposure would be fatal. Yes, Ki-ho said simply. Silence filled the channel. Then Du-Yun spoke. There must be another way. There isn't. Ki-ho insisted as his shuttle docked with the Mercy. And we're out of time. Inside the Mercy's engineering section, Ki-ho worked rapidly, rerouting power systems and modifying field generators while Dr. Dahyun assisted. The star's death throes shook the ship with increasing violence. All ships report ready for emergency jump. Communications reported. 270,000 refugees secured. It wasn't the 500,000 they had hoped for, but it was better than extinction. Du-Yun gave the order. Prepare fleet-wide jump on my mark. Ki-ho sealed the engineering section and entered the shielded core room alone. Through the reinforced viewport, Dr. Dahyun watched as the younger engineer connected himself directly to the field generators. Tell them on Earth we did our best, Ki-ho said over the comm. You'll be remembered, Dahyun promised, his old eyes filling with tears. As the star began its final collapse, Ki-ho manually stabilized the field extensions protecting the 7 vulnerable ships. Radiation alarms blared as the exposure levels in the core room soared beyond survivable limits. Field stabilized, Ki-ho reported, his voice growing weaker. All ships protected. Jump in 3, 2, 1. Mark. Du-Yun ordered. The human fleet vanished into FTL space moments before the Neridian sun collapsed completely, leaving behind a newborn black hole and the remains of a once beautiful civilization. Inside the core room, Engineer Ki-ho smiled as darkness took him. His last thought was of the thousands of children who would live because humanity had answered a desperate call from the stars. Retrieve, the great crystal dome of the Galactic Council Chamber, had stood for 10,000 years, witnessing countless debates, alliances, and judgments. Today, its perfect acoustics carried the murmurs of 12 spacefaring civilizations as they discussed the unprecedented event unfolding before them. At the center of the chamber stood Commander Ji-woo in her formal Earth uniform, flanked by Elder Taho of the Neridians. Behind them waited the captains of the human rescue fleet, still bearing the marks of their desperate mission. Burned uniforms, radiation burns, and exhausted faces wearing expressions of quiet pride. The Council recognizes the representatives of Earth and the surviving Neridian people, announced the Council chairperson, a tall being with crystalline features that refracted light as she moved. Ji-woo stepped forward. 3 weeks ago, this council heard the plea of the Neridian civilization and deemed them beyond saving. You judged the risk too great, the effort too dangerous, the loss acceptable. Her words hung in the air, neither accusatory nor apologetic, simply factual. Humanity decided otherwise. The chamber remained silent as images appeared on the floating displays. The human fleet arriving at the dying Neridian system, ships descending through radiation storms, crew members working alongside Neridians in desperate evacuation efforts. 270,000 Neridians now live because we answered their call, Ji-woo continued. Not the millions we had hoped for, but enough to ensure their civilization continues. Elder Taho moved beside her, his iridescent skin glowing with subtle blue patterns of gratitude. When hope faded and death seemed certain, he said, his voice carrying the musical tones of his native language beneath the translator. These humans, unknown to us before our darkest hour, risked everything. 23 humans gave their lives in our rescue. Engineer Ki-ho sacrificed himself to ensure the fleet's escape. The counselor from the Vexari Federation, known for their scientific achievements, leaned forward. How did your ships penetrate the gravitational anomaly? Our analyses indicated all known FTL technologies would fail. All known to you, corrected Dr. Dahyun, stepping forward despite protocol. The elderly physicist's hands shook slightly, but his voice remained firm. Human FTL technology operates on different principles. We use quantum tunneling rather than tachyon fields. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The implications were clear. Humanity, despite being new to interstellar travel, had developed technology that worked on fundamentally different principles than the established galactic community. The Calthy representative, whose species had been among the first to achieve interstellar flight, spoke next. You claim to have saved these people purely from altruism, with no expectation of gain. Captain Du Yun stepped forward, her uniform still bearing scorch marks from her ship's damaged systems. We claim to have saved them because it was right. What would you have had us do? Listen to their call and turn away. The Council made its judgment based on risk assessment and established protocols. The chairperson stated defensively.